welcome to Family Nature Club. My name is Miss Mary. I'm Storytime Programmer at the Faulkner County Library in Conway, Arkansas. And welcome to our Jack and the Beanstalk themed Family Nature Club. I thought we would just start off telling the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready too. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a widow and her son Jack on their small farm in the country. Every day, Jack would help his mother with the chores, chopping wood, weeding the garden, and milking the cow. But despite all their hard work, Jack and his mother were very poor, with barely enough money to keep themselves fed. "What shall we do? What shall we do?" said the widow one spring day. "We don't have enough money to buy seed for our farm this year. We must sell our cow, Old Bess, and maybe with the money from that, we'll have enough money to buy some seeds to get a good crop." "All right, Mother," said Jack. "It's market day today. I'll go into town and sell Bessie." Jack took the cow's halter in his hand, walked through the garden gate, and headed off toward town. He hadn't gotten very far when he met a funny-looking old man in the woods. And the old man said, "Good morning, Jack." "Good morning to you," said Jack, wondering how did the little old man know his name. "Where are you off to this fine morning?" asked the man. "I'm going to market to sell our cow, Bessie." "What a helpful son you are," exclaimed the man. "I have a special deal for a good boy like you." The old man looked around to make sure no one was watching him. Then he opened his hand to show Jack what his hand held. "These are magic bean seeds, to be exact, young man. So magical are they that if you plant them overnight, by morning they grow right up to the sky." This is what the funny little man promised. "And because you're such a good boy, they're all yours in trade for that old milking cow." "Really?" said Jack. "And you're quite sure they're magical?" "I am indeed. And if it doesn't turn out to be true, you can have your cow back." "Well, that sounds fair," said Jack as he handed over Bessie's halter, pocketed the beans, and went back home to show his mother. "Back already, Jack?" asked his mother. "I can see you haven't got old Bess. You've sold her so quickly. How much did you get for her?" Jack smiled and reached into his pocket. "Just look at these beans, Mother. They're magical. Plant them overnight and..." "What?" cried Jack's mother. "Oh, silly boy, how could you give away our milking cow for those measly beans?" And with that, she did the worst thing Jack had ever seen her do. She burst into tears. Jack ran upstairs to his little room in the attic. So sorry he was that guess what he did? He threw the beans angrily out the window, thinking, "How could I have been so foolish? I have broken my mother's heart." After much tossing and turning, Jack finally dropped off to sleep. Why, the beans he had thrown out the window into the garden had sprung up into a giant beanstalk. And using the leaves and the vines of the beanstalk like the rungs of a ladder, Jack climbed up higher and higher and higher until he reached the sky. And when he got there, he found a long, broad road winding its way through the clouds to a tall, square castle off in the distance. Jack ran down the road toward the castle. Well, the lady giant was pretty nice after all, even if she was a giant. She took Jack into the kitchen, gave him a chunk of cheese and a glass of milk. But Jack had only taken a few bites when thump, 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 the whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone coming. What shall I do? There's nothing he likes better than boys broiled on toast, and I haven't any bread left. Oh dear, I should have never let you stay for breakfast. Here, come quick and jump in here. And she hurried Jack into a large copper pot sitting beside the stove, just as her husband, a giant, walked in. He ducked inside the kitchen and said, "I'm ready for breakfast. I'm so hungry I could eat 3 cows. Ah, what's this I smell? Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll have his bones to grind my bread." "Nonsense, dear," said his wife. "We haven't had a boy for breakfast in years. Now, you go and wash up, and by the time you come back, your breakfast will be ready for you." So the giant went off to tidy up. Jack was about to make a run for it when the woman stopped him. "Wait until he's asleep," she said. "He always has a little snooze after breakfast." Jack peeked out of the copper pot just as the giant returned to the kitchen carrying a basket filled with golden eggs and a sickly-looking hen. The giant poked the hen and growled, "Lay!" And the hen laid an egg made of gold, which the giant added to the basket. After his breakfast, the giant went to the closet and pulled out a golden harp with the face of a sad young girl. The giant poked the harp and growled, "Play!" And the harp began to play a gentle tune while her lovely face sang a lullaby. The giant began to nod his head and snore until the house shook. When he was sure that the giant was asleep, Jack crept out of the copper pipe and began to tiptoe out of the kitchen. Just as he was about to leave, he heard the sound of the harp girl weeping. Jack bit his lip, sighed, and returned to the kitchen. He grabbed the sickly hen and the singing harp and began to tiptoe back out. But this time the hen gave a cackle, which woke the giant. Just as Jack got out of the house, he heard him calling, "Wife, wife, what have you done with my white hen and my golden harp?" Jack ran as fast as he could. Realizing that he had been tricked, the giant came rushing after, away from the castle, down the broad winding road. When he got to the Beanstalk, the giant was only 20 yards away when suddenly he saw Jack disappear. Oh, the giant peeked through the clouds and saw Jack underneath, climbing down the Beanstalk for his dear life. The giant stomped his foot and roared angrily, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to have my bread." The giant swung himself down onto the Beanstalk, shook with his weight. Jack slipped, slid, and climbed down the Beanstalk quickly as he could, and the giant climbed down after him. As he neared the bottom of the Beanstalk, Jack called out, "Mother, please, hurry, bring me an axe, bring me an axe." And his mother came rushing out with Jack's wood chopping axe in her hand. But when she came to the enormous Beanstalk, she stood stock still with fright. Jack jumped down, got a hold of the axe, and began to chop, 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 chop away at the Beanstalk. Luckily, because of all the chores he had done over the years, he had become quite good at chopping, and it didn't take long for him to chop through enough of the beanstalk that it began to teeter. The giant felt the beanstalk shake and quiver, so he stopped to see what was the matter. Then Jack gave one last big chop with the axe, and the beanstalk began to topple over. Oh my goodness, the giant fell down, boom, and bumped his crown. And the beanstalk went tumbling after. The singing harp thanked Jack for rescuing her from the giant. She had hated being locked up in the closet all day and night and wanted nothing more than to sit in the farmhouse window and sing to the birds and butterflies in the sunshine. With a bit of patience and his mother's help, it didn't take long for Jack to get the sickly hen back in good health, and the grateful hen continued to lay a fresh golden egg every day. Jack used his money from selling the golden eggs to buy back old Bess, purchase seed for the spring crop, and to fix up his mother's farm. He even had enough left over to invite every one of his neighbors over for a nice meal, complete with music from the singing harp. And so Jack, his mother, old Bess, and the golden harp, and the white hen lived happily ever after.
Hey there, I'm Zach McCannon. I'm the garden programmer at the Faulkner County Library. We're here in the garden and at the Urban Farm Project in front of the purple potted pole beans that you see here on this bamboo trellis. Bamboo, or river cane in Arkansas, is a native plant, and so this is called river cane, also bamboo, and we've got purple potted pole beans growing up here, which is also a vegetable seed that was found in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountain region in northern Arkansas in the 1930s by Henry Fields. And Henry Fields, when he was a young boy, only about 12 or 13, he started collecting seeds and saving seeds and selling them, almost like a lemonade stand. And so by the time he was 16, 17 years old, he had started working in seed shops, and turned out to have $1 million business as a seed salesman or on into his older years. So young entrepreneur, and turned seed saver, and ended up in the Ozarks finding seeds in the 1930s. Okay, for this specific one, we used 5 poles, and they're about 12 foot tall. So we've got 5. Let me start this over here.
Go for it.
All right. Leave those on the vine. They'll get really big. They'll get really plump, and then they'll dry out on the vine here, and then we'll pick them later on this summer, late summer, fall, and let them dry out again for a couple weeks in a cool, dark area inside the library, and then start shelling beans, which is fun. It's a great activity, and it's something that most families would have done in Arkansas in the early 1900s all the way up probably till even the 1970s, and even now there's a lot of gardeners still here. So this is the purple potted pole bean, a native of Arkansas, and we hope to keep the tradition alive and keep sharing these seeds